Hi, my name is Patricia Childs. I'm a graduate student online here at Tiffin University. I'm in my final semester and, in fact, final weeks of my Master's of Humanities in English. And I hope to go on and teach freshman composition here in my home state of Georgia. We are in Augusta and we are getting very ready and excited for the Master's to begin. So it's an exciting time here. The name of my presentation is The Negative Psychological and Physiological Effects of Social Media on Adolescents Aged 10 to 21. So, what is the big deal? Why am I talking about this? First, I'm a mom and I have two kids, one who's 19 and one who's 12. So social media is very much part of our lives. Here's what I found when I did my research. This is a research paper, not a research project. There were no case studies, there were no subjects. This is just a research paper. The highly adaptive and complicated algorithms employed by social media platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and YouTube constantly track and adapt to the user. And the result is the monetizing of the user's attention via clicks. We'll talk more about that in a sec. So far more demanding is the behavioral addiction to the endorphins released by constantly stimulating the reward center of the brain, as well as keeping the need for such stimulation high, by tailoring news feeds and streams to provoke outrage and confusion. It is all about engagement. And finally, the 10 to 21 age group is especially vulnerable to the pain and pleasure cycle, as the subcortical and striatum, the two regions of the brain most associated with risk-taking and the strong desire for peer approval, are developing faster during adolescence than at any other time. So how far does this damage go, and why are teens affected more than anyone else? Here's how it works. When someone likes your post on Facebook or Snapchat or Instagram, you get a dopamine hit right through your central nervous system, and it feels good. And then we're pulled into a self-perpetuating compulsion loop through subtle hijacking techniques, similar to the way a slot machine randomly rewards the gambler, with the intent of keeping us engaged, staring at the screen and continually seeking such approval. Every time a response to a stimulus results in a reward, these associations become stronger through long-term potentiation. How does this work? You're scrolling through Facebook, you're really, really tired. You want to go to bed, but for some reason 20 minutes has just gone by and you think, where did that 20 minutes go? That's your compulsion loop. Now, every time you stop to look at a picture, every time you press like or do any kind of engagement, Facebook is keeping track of it. So an excessive amount of dopamine released at the wrong moment can affect critical thinking and perspective, causing insignificant things to become larger than life. And teenagers, already biologically equipped with impulsive personalities, are the most vulnerable to the effects of such cerebral overprocessing. It's a lot of input coming in from that screen. The invisible damage caused by the pain-pleasure cycle, as the subcortical and striatum, the two regions most associated with risk-taking and the strong desire for peer approval, develop faster during adolescence and young adulthood than at any other time in your life. So the result is the compulsion to stay connected all the time. So apps like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, they send out notifications because they're sitting there saying, well, just turn off the internet, right? Right. Well, there are a couple of reasons why that doesn't work. These apps send out notifications, little nudges saying, hey, read me right now. You might be missing something important. Something really cool could be going on and you're going to be left out. So now we know excessive screen time leads to lack of sleep, which teens are already prone to. But look at this fact right here. Approximately 86% of adolescents sleep with their phone under their pillow or in their hands or quite close by. That is staggering to me. A phone under the pillow. 86% of adolescents do this. So what is the impact of the false narrative? Well, the false narrative is what Facebook is really good at, or Snapchat or Instagram. So you take a picture, you run it through a filter, or you tweak it so you look your best, your friends look your best, everyone looks beautiful, shiny, and happy, and you post it saying having a great time. Well, someone sees this and says, how come that's not me? And teens who automatically turn things inward just by virtue of being teens already feel their self-esteem plummeting, as you see right here. So heightened anxiety already happening because you're a teen, but due to excessive screen time causes faulty perception of self and plummeting self-esteem. kaboom. The result is a cognitive dissonance that multiplies exponentially, but most importantly, silently. So you can follow this vicious little cycle around and around and around, and it happens so quietly. So we're taking a look at the suicide risk model. Now, I want to point out it does not necessarily follow that this is the next step, but take a look at these two contributing thoughts for suicide risk model. I am a burden and I am alone. Those are two thoughts that teens have in their heads very, very often, because despite the fact that we are connected more right now than at any other point in history, we are still suffering from extreme loneliness and depression and anxiety, even before COVID. And those are two thoughts that teens really grapple with. So it's really not too far of a risk to have these thoughts tend toward a suicidal bend. And you think that's quite a leap. I'm not sure that I would agree with that. You're right. You don't have to. And it is a leap in some cases, in a lot of cases. But consider this, that the number one contributor to teen suicide, actual suicide and suicidal ideation comes from cyberbullying. And where does cyberbullying occur? There it is. It's not that big of a leap. So in 2020, Netflix introduced and released a movie called The Social Dilemma, and it was sponsored largely in part by a group called the Center for Humane Technology. Now, The Social Dilemma had people who have worked inside these social media platforms coming out and telling you exactly what these social media platforms are meant to do. It is an eye-opening movie, and I won't get into it here, but it was the backbone of my research. And I really like this quote down here. The real problem of humanity is the following. We have Paleolithic emotions, medieval institutions, and godlike technology. Now, this is a quote from Edward O. Wilson, research professor of biodiversity, among many other things, at Harvard University. And he said this in 2009, right as the internet was going kablooey. And interestingly enough, Dr. Wilson died, I think, day after Christmas last year. So he was around to see a lot of this happening. So just what is the social dilemma? Well, let's talk a little bit about algorithms. They are a set of commands to perform a specific function. And there are algorithms in our brains. There are algorithms on all kinds of computer interactions. So that's how the Facebook algorithm works. It sees you, it has a profile for you, but it has an algorithm for you too. And that algorithm is constantly adapting, constantly changing, based on the feedback that you give it. Every time you scroll, every time you pause, every time you click a like, it says, maybe they would like this as well. So what it does is to construct a profile of you, and then the algorithm bumps to meet your interests and maybe other interests, and on and on and on. And what's even more startling is that you never know it's happening. But just remember, if you pay nothing for the product, then you are the product. So in November 2020, I constructed a social media survey via Google Forms. And my respondents, about 27, 28 of them, ranged in age from age 12 all the way up to mid-70s, and they came from all over the world. So there were a lot of results that were startling. And remember, I'm compacting a lot of this into very few slides and only 10 minutes, so I'm leaving a lot out. So the first main result, Facebook was the largest social media platform engaged, with 60% of the respondents indicating they spent over 3 hours a day on Facebook. Also, 73% of respondents indicated that they picked up or unlocked their phones more than 20 times a day. And a pickup is where you just pick up and engage with your phone. You can find this information under your settings menu. 19% received more than 120 alerts per day. 120 alerts, even when they weren't interacting with their phone. The phone was interacting with them. And 26% reported they spent more than 6 hours a day on their phone. Lastly, 80% reported that they kept their phones in their hands, in their pockets, or in some other way physically touching their bodies. This phone is becoming a part of our physiological makeup. It's already a part of our psychological makeup, so it's not too surprising that it's gone the next step. So at this point, I want to say thank you for paying attention. I look forward to the Q&A. I will be happy to answer any questions you have, or at least I will try. Remember, I am a person of words. I do not do studies. This was not a research project. This was just a research paper. If you're interested in a list of my sources, if you want to look at the hard science behind this, I will happily provide it. If you want to look at the results of the survey, I'll happily provide that too. Thank you for your time.